For those of you who don't know, I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball, and I've loved it for a really long time. And it's been a while since the last legitimate animated installment in this franchise. The last thing that came out was the Dragon Ball Super Broly film, which was released in select theaters in 2018. That feels really weird to say. I can't believe it's been that long. Anyway, just today, as of my recording of this video, a new trailer dropped for a new movie, titled Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which has got to be in the running for having one of the most redundant and wordy titles ever, right up there with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. To get to the point, the reception to this trailer has been mixed at best. A lot of people are excited for it, but there's also quite a number of people upset at the new direction Toei is taking with the animation. It's been a rather contentious subject in the Dragon Ball community, you could say. Dragon Ball has certainly played around with 3D quite a number of times over the last few years in the major films, but it's never really succeeded at being as appealing as the hand-drawn 2D animation that Dragon Ball is kind of known for. So now, having a whole movie with 3D characters just feels underwhelming, especially since the last film's animation and art direction was overflowing with so much soul and energy that honestly revitalized the franchise. So it's just a bit disappointing that we're not getting any more of that same style. Anyway, I'm going to watch through the trailer now, stop every so often, and provide my thoughts and commentary on the animation, just to see what I think of the movie. Let's go. The New Crisis. Okay, if you can tell, the character animation might appear choppy. This is because it's attempting to emulate the frame rate consistent with 2D animation. I already saw some people on Twitter trying to be smart and complain that this movie's animation is cheap because of its low frame rate. For some reason, people think that having a lower frame rate means less work for the animators. While this might be true with 2D animation where more frames requires more drawing, with 3D this isn't the case. While having more frames in an animation may impact the timing and placement of keyframes, it doesn't in any way equal more work. Having a lower frame rate is simply an aesthetic choice made to mimic traditional 2D animation. If you've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you're probably already familiar with this style. Honestly, one of the most underwhelming parts of this trailer for me are these super bland text screens. In Japanese it kinda looks alright, but in English it's just like this default Times New Roman font or something on top of a black backdrop. It doesn't look good at all, it's super lazy and doesn't match the art direction of the rest of the trailer at all. I went back to look at Broly's trailer, and the text screens in that are so much better. Honestly, it kind of gives me bad vibes when the effort put into the promotional material like this is super minimal. Obviously, a good movie can have a bad trailer, but I think it says something about how much the producers at Toei care about a project based on how much they're willing to put into creating original art just for a trailer. But maybe I'm just overthinking it, I don't know. I really like this shot. The backdrop here kind of looks like something you'd see out of a Ghibli film, with all these goofy and fun details. I love the intersection between all of these rigid angular lines and the round spherical shapes over here. Pretty compelling to look at. I also really love the character up front. If he's a villain, I think that's just great. I love his hair, the bright red suit is also really fun. I do have a problem with this shot though. I'm not a big fan of how the images in the back of Vegeta and Majin Buu on the screen are 2D drawings in a style that does not match the rest of the surroundings. Why are they so rigid, and why is the shading on them so sharp, when the shading on everything else is so soft? I don't know, it just seems like kind of an oversight. We already saw a flat picture depicting a character using the correct shading earlier in the trailer, so having it be wrong here feels weird. I don't know. I hope they update this before the production finishes. This might seem like a nitpick, but having everything be visually cohesive is an absolute must for any animated TV or movie production. I really like this evil doctor character. He has a really unique design for Dragon Ball anyway, and I know he's evil because of this red ribbon logo he has on his cup. which is kind of hilarious that they put the logo of their evil organization on their cups, but whatever. If you don't know what the Red Ribbon Group is, they're essentially OG villains from the original Dragon Ball show. So this is telling me that this movie is not going to be incredibly grand in scale like Broly was. I'm guessing this story is going to be more down to earth and a little more restrained as far as the power levels go. Also, this type of environment, if we go back here a second, being inside of a moving car is not typical for Dragon Ball. I can't think of how many times in the past where we've had scenes take place inside of cars before. This might be a result of using 3D, so who knows? There might be advantages here. I just noticed that he's eating an Oreo too, so that's pretty funny. Oh boy. Personal opinion here, but I'm not at all a fan of this character's design. While I do like the outfit and the color scheme he has, I am just so tired of seeing this face. This face has been used on like 1,000 other characters at this point. It's kind of uninspired. That being said, I do really like this shot. I like the green and blue gradient background with the white action lines. It's very reminiscent of a comic book in that regard. So that's pretty nice. And the foreshortening here with the front hand being larger than the back is pretty cool. That's a pretty nice dynamic pose, I'd say. Now, I do believe this is Pan, the daughter of Gohan and Videl. The last time we saw her, she was a baby, so it's kind of cool that there's been a significant amount of time between this film and Broly. That all being said, I really love her design. The bright little red gloves on her hands are so cute. I think this frame is a great place to really take in the 3D art style and how complex it really is. The first thing that jumps out to me is the line work. You'll notice that it's quite uneven and there's even imperfections here and there, such as on the left shoulder here. This perfectly mimics the filter that Toei used on the line work in Broly, and is using on their shows now, such as in One Piece. The shadows are soft and seem to have gradients in them. Even in the flat color areas, there are still subtle gradients. It has the effect of looking like an illustration rendered with markers. Something about how the dark areas look like they've been bled, like how layering with markers works, you know. I don't know. It's a really cool look though, and it certainly has had a lot of work put into its compositing to make it look this appealing. And that deserves some recognition, even if you don't like the style that much. Okay, so I'm not a 3D expert, so I might just be talking nonsense here. But I think this shot has a different face model than the previous one. And I say that because the face and eyes do not seem to match the previous shot. Which, if this is the case, that's actually a really cool attention to detail. The thing about Dragon Ball characters is that they do not remain consistent depending on the angle you look at them from. Goku's hair is the best example of this. So if they purposely changed her face and eyes to match the original drawing style depending on the angle we're seeing her from, that's a really cool level of dedication to authenticity. Again, the only reason I'm saying this is because her face looks so flat here, but in this shot her eyes barely change shape and there's this huge bridge of her nose that wasn't present before. But I don't know, it could be hiding in the first shot with clever shading or something. Also, the backgrounds in this seem to be going for a semi-realistic approach, whereas the backgrounds in Broly were more painted and stylistic. There seems to be a lot of purple shading, which is cool, I like purple, but in some areas I would say the colors are a bit too saturated. I don't love how blue this water is, and the green of the trees is just way too bright. Also, this kind of shot looks like the assets were just thrown on top of each other. I imagine how they make these backgrounds is that they have a bunch of painted assets, such as mountains and forests, that they mix together and create to make new backgrounds, so that way they don't have to repaint the whole backdrop for every scene. It works, but you can see it looks a little haphazard in some areas, mainly the places where these trees overlap the mountains. Alright. Now this shot of Goku, strap in folks, we're going to be talking about this for a good second. There's a lot to talk about. First, I wholly believe that the shading in this shot is drawn on, as in they rendered the 3D model and then drew the shading on a 2D animated layer and then composited it together in post. I say this because look at Goku's cheek here on the right and then look at the shading information on the left. It doesn't match. It's flat on the right, but then there's like a whole cheekbone here. Also, the shading is just too accurate to Dragon Ball style to not be hand-drawn. Another example here is look at where Goku's cheeks crease. This triangle here is classic Dragon Ball. I'm not sure how they would have gotten this triangle to show up unless it was hand drawn on. But again, I'm not a huge 3D person, so maybe I'm wrong about this. Like, look, if we pause right here, look at the insane amount of shading information on Goku's arm. Look at how perfect and interesting these shapes are. And look at how they're inconsistent with the light source that's being cast on the face. The light direction on the arm and the face don't match. And that's telling me that these shadows are deliberately drawn on, because that couldn't be possible otherwise. I'd be blown away if these shadows were achieved on the model with a 3D light source. With all that said, Goku looks sick here, and I love the look. The foreshortening here is great. Something that's always made the 3D in previous films subpar is the fact that the models were always so rigid. Exaggeration is one of the principles of animation, and 3D models have inherent constraints and can't be broken by design. They can certainly be made to stretch and contort, but you can only do that so much. But from what I'm seeing so far, the boarding and camera perspectives are allowing the 3D models to appear exaggerated and give them a decent amount of energy. We'll have to see it in motion for longer though, to see if it's truly working. I saw some people claim this shot is 3D. It's not. What is going on here is that the landscape is made out of multiple 2D painted assets. This main plateau that our boy Piccolo is on a separate layer from the rest of the landscape, and zooms in closer to the camera than the backdrop, giving this shot the sense of depth that's not truly present. It's how 2D illustrations can mimic a 3D effect. I've done this type of thing in After Effects at least 100 times. It's a pretty basic tool, but incredibly powerful. This explosion is pretty unique. I don't think I've seen a 2D elemental effect in Dragon Ball that quite looks like this before. Again, there's an interesting attempt to go halfway with realism. There's all this rock debris going everywhere, and there's a lot of gradients in the smoke, and the shapes of the smoke plumes are something I've never seen in Dragon Ball before. I just haven't seen an explosion in Dragon Ball that looks like this. I don't know. It's cool. I dig it. See? Let's go back here. See, this is how smoke normally looks. I'm glad it isn't any more blurry here. One of my major complaints about the Dragon Ball Super show was that they constantly blurred all the smoke effects, and it always destroyed all of the effort that was put into creating cool smoke shapes, because the blurring removed a lot of that detail. So I'm glad they've learned not to destroy that precious detail. Yeah, even the logo is just kind of lame. So yeah, that's the trailer. At the moment, I'm not experiencing any of that crazy levels of hype that I felt watching the Broly trailers. I'm glad this movie is happening, but it's not gonna kill me to have to wait to see it, you know? I guess it is cool that this film seems to be a more slice of life, a more down-to-earth type of story. Not every Dragon Ball arc needs to be about saving the whole universe, you know? I can already tell that it will have a lot of heart. When Toriyama's involved, it always does. I'm glad Pan and Piccolo are significant characters in this, as I am getting tired of Dragon Ball only being about Goku and Vegeta. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. I know this is different from the kind of content I normally make, but hopefully that didn't bother you. Anyway, see ya.